The show begins with a hooded woman enjoying a roller coaster ride at an amusement park. She appears to be having a great time, screaming and waving her hands with delight, but moments later, her hood falls off and everyone recognizes her as the famous volleyball player, Kang Sira. They begin to swarm around her in excitement, but Sira quickly covers her face and manages to escape. Shortly after, she buys a fake plastic beard and glasses to cover her face. She then notices a large teddy bear in the distance, which reminds her of a similar one her father once gifted her. Sira learns that she needs to win a basketball shooting game to claim the bear. She attempts several shots, but ends up losing each time. Meanwhile, another guy named Yi is also playing the same game, and it appears he's close to winning. Sira intentionally bumps into him to make him lose, but he still ends up winning. Afterward, she approaches Yi and pleads with him to give her the bear. She even removes her mask and shows her real face to convince him. Yi is captivated by her good looks, but he refuses to give her the bear and starts walking away. This enrages our heroine, so she hits him and tries to steal the toy. The two then engage in a clumsy fight, while the onlookers watch in shock. During the scuffle, they accidentally activate a nearby fountain. This results in them being fully soaked, and they quickly flee the scene, embarrassed. Later, he arrives at a restaurant, where he meets his volleyball coach. It is revealed that Yi has taken time off from high school to earn money to cover his 6 sisters' expenses. The coach then reveals that their volleyball team has come in last place nationwide. He now wants Yi back as it is the only way to save the team. Our hero thinks about it for a while and eventually agrees. On the other hand, Sira arrives at her agency, where she overhears her manager venting frustration on his secretary. He is angry that Sira's recent volleyball match didn't go well. He asks where she is, but the secretary has no idea and mentions that even her phone is turned off. The manager then remarks that she's heading to her own downfall without realizing it. Upon hearing this, our heroine feels bad and quietly walks away. The scene then shifts to the evening, where Sira arrives at a karaoke bar to unwind. She begins crying her heart out, but unfortunately, some people recognize her again. They gather around her in excitement and ask for autographs. Our anxious heroine somehow evades them and runs to the men's bathroom. She hides in one of the stalls, but a guy named Woo Jin notices her and says he's a big fan. Fed up, Sira opens the door to leave, but her clothes get caught in the door. Unfortunately, she misunderstands that Woo Jin is grabbing her to prevent her from leaving. She then turns around and sees him staring at her with a big grin. Enraged, she launches an attack on him, calling him a pervert. Another man notices this and tries to intervene, but Sira refuses to stop and continues her onslaught. After a while, we see both of them at the police station. Sira realizes her mistake and apologizes, and Woo Jin also forgives her. Since he's a big fan, he doesn't want to file charges against her. The situation is almost resolved, and both of them are about to be released, but just then, Sira's manager arrives and begins hitting Woo Jin, assuming him to be a pervert. The scene then cuts to a press conference where we see Sira, her manager, and Woo Jin smiling at the reporters. The manager then announces that Sira will be coaching Woo Jin's high school volleyball team beginning the next day. It turns out the smart guy set this condition in exchange for not filing charges against the manager. Later, Sira speaks privately with her manager, stating that she doesn't want to coach the team that is ranked last in the country. She wonders how she can agree to this when she herself has been dropped from all the pro teams. However, the manager assures her that she only needs to show up for 2 weeks and can leave afterward if she wants. The next morning, Sira arrives at the high school, where many fans and reporters greet her. She then heads to the gym area and meets the current coach of the volleyball team. He warmly welcomes her and introduces her to the team. Along with that, he also introduces Yi, who was once the best player on their volleyball team. Yi and Sira quickly recognize each other from the amusement park, but they remain silent and pretend to be strangers. Meanwhile, the team captain, Woo Jin, continues to smile at her with a wide grin. Later, on her way home, Sira is still annoyed and tells her manager that she doesn't want to coach there. However, he advises her to stick with it for a while and agrees to shorten the 2-week agreement to 1 week. The next day, Sira arrives at the gym and notices that Yi and the others are slacking off instead of practicing. She begins to yell at them and scolds them for not listening to the captain, but Yi responds that the best player isn't always the captain and gives Woo Jin a sarcastic look. This leads to an argument between the two, and Sira challenges him to go against the captain if he thinks he's so great. Yi, who is competitive by nature, promptly agrees to participate. He says that if Woo Jin's team wins, he'll follow all of the captain's rules. But if his team wins, Sira has to leave the school once and for all. Shortly after, each team begins to pick their members, and Woo Jin ends up choosing Sira. This makes her really happy as she can now lose the game on purpose. Soon, the match begins and the entire school gathers around to watch. Sira deliberately plays poorly in the first round, allowing Yi's team to win. However, a frustrated Woo Jin approaches her and promises that he won't let her down, as it's a matter of her pride as well. Upon hearing this, Sira is touched and feels bad for Woo Jin and his team. She then recalls an incident when she was injured during a big tournament and failed to block an opponent. Her teammate had scolded her for being incompetent and blamed her for the failure. This memory eventually changes her mind and she decides to win the game for Woo Jin. She regains her spirit and plays with all her capability while also guiding her team members. As a result, her team ends up winning both the second and third rounds. Later, as they are busy celebrating their victory, Yi unexpectedly shows up and kneels in front of Sira. He examines her ankle and inquires if she's in pain. Our heroine denies it, but he doesn't believe her at all. Yi points out that she winces every time she lands on her feet. He suggests she should go to the hospital soon, which leaves her surprised. In the following days, Sira grows close to the team members and begins to enjoy her job. She helps players with their training plans and adjusts their positions based on their strengths and weaknesses. The players are also pleased with her presence and respect her a lot, especially Woo Jin. One day, Sira approaches Yi to resolve their differences since they started on the wrong foot. He says that he gave her a chance to leave on that day, which she didn't take. Sira responds that she stayed for Woo Jin and appreciates his efforts to strengthen the team. Unfortunately, this only makes Yi angry, and he loudly declares that Woo Jin isn't qualified to be the captain. Another team member overhears this and gets mad at him for bad-mouthing the captain. He then slams the ball in Yi's direction to strike him. It almost hits Sira, but our hero quickly hugs her and takes the hit himself. Afterward, he gets into a big fight with the other guy, which catches the principal's attention. To make matters worse, Sira's manager unexpectedly appears and drags her away from the scene. She wants to go back to sort out the situation, but he doesn't let her. The following day, Sira arrives at her manager's office, where he informs her that she no longer needs to go back to school. He also reveals that the principal informed him the volleyball team is being dissolved. The manager then gives her a schedule filled with commercial shoots and television interviews, but Sira refuses, claiming that she has no purpose in life if she isn't an athlete. She doesn't want to sit back and relax after causing the mess at the high school. However, the manager doesn't think she is a good coach and points out that she can't even discipline her students. The statement enrages our heroine and she abruptly announces that she won't renew her contract with him. The rude manager asks if she's capable of doing anything without his help, but she doesn't respond and simply walks away. She later grabs her stuff and leaves the house provided by her agency as well. In the next scene, Sira arrives at the house where all the volleyball players are currently staying. They are surprised to see her, but they warmly welcome her inside. Afterward, she explains her situation, and Yi kindly offers her his room. He then ends up moving in with the other boys. The next morning, Sira and the other coach try to stop the disbandment of the volleyball team. However, the principal claims that the students are slacking off in their studies due to volleyball. He even scolds the former coach, pointing out that the team has been around for 3 years but has not accomplished anything significant. In the evening, Sira discusses the situation with the team members at the house. It turns out they weren't aware of the bad news, so they are obviously shocked. Everyone starts talking about what they're going to do next. However, Yi is furious as they're only thinking about themselves and not the team. He eventually leaves the house in anger, and Sira goes to console him. After a while, she manages to calm him down, and they have a heart-to-heart conversation. She asks him to come back, but he doesn't see the point without a team. Sira assures him that they will save the team and compete for the President's Cup. However, Yi is more concerned about her leg and asks what's wrong. Sira finally reveals that she got injured 5 years ago and had surgery. She eventually recovered, but the doctor warned her that it could relapse. She admits that her ankle is hurting again and begins to cry. After she calms down, the two return to the house where Woo Jin has been waiting for her. He asks if she can speak to his father, who's the school chairman. Woo Jin wants her to help convince him to keep the volleyball team. Sira promptly agrees, and they head to meet the chairman. Upon their arrival, she attempts to persuade the chairman to reinstate the team, but he refuses. He doesn't like the fact that his son is ignoring his studies and dedicating all his time to the game. Sira threatens to organize a protest outside the school, stating that her popularity will draw a large number of supporters. The chairman is somewhat unnerved by this, but he still refuses to back down completely. He says that he will agree to keep the team if they come in first at the upcoming President's Cup. Woo Jin is shocked by this unreasonable demand, but Sira agrees as she's confident in her team. The next day, she gathers all the players and briefs the situation to them. She explains that in order to keep the team, they have to win the President's Cup. This shocks all the boys, as they were literally ranked last the previous year. Sira motivates them by insisting that it is possible and urges them to have faith in themselves. Afterward, she arranges a trial match with Hyunchang High School, who are the defending champions. Sira hopes that her team can put up a good fight and at least score some good points. However, they perform very poorly and end up losing by a landslide. She later scolds them, revealing that it was not Hyunchang players who were on the court, but rather substitutes. Sira claims that it is all about their mindset and encourages them to think like winners. The team is motivated by her words, and they decide to play another match against the substitute. This time, they end up winning rather easily. The following day, we see Sira rushing to the hospital desk and asking about Yi. However, he soon shows up in front of her in perfectly fine condition. It turns out he faked his accident and asked her to come over so she could see the doctor. Yi has booked an appointment for her and reluctantly gets an X-ray of her ankle. When the results come in, Sira is shocked to find that her worst fears are confirmed. Her injury has relapsed once again, and she needs another surgery, which is risky. This makes her very distraught, but Yi comforts her and assures her that she'll be alright. Days later, Sira arrives at her manager's office to discuss their contract, but in the midst of their conversation, she suddenly loses consciousness. This worries the manager greatly, and he immediately takes her to the hospital. Fortunately, it's not a major condition and her fainting was just due to stress. After some time, the manager learns from the doctor that her ankle injury has relapsed. He is very concerned by the news, as despite everything, he still cares for her. He then goes to see her but discovers Sira has already run away from the hospital. In the next scene, she arrives home and notices a giant pink bear waiting for her at the gate. She looks around and sees Yi standing nearby with a wide smile on his face. Sira thanks him for the gift and prepares to leave, but he grabs her and suddenly kisses her. This shocks our heroine, prompting her to quickly pull away and rush inside. She later wonders why he kissed her and whether he likes her. However, she decides not to think about it too much and reminds herself that he's her student. Next day, Sira and her manager meet again to discuss the end of their contract. However, he places the results of her medical examination on the table and asks when she was planning to tell him about it. He then apologizes for how he treated her in the past and asks her not to end their contract. The manager promises to support her coaching job and not to trouble her anymore. Sira is moved by his words and decides to forgive him since they have been working together for a long time. Following this, the manager sends his secretary to accompany Sira into the house. He doesn't want her to be alone in a house full of boys, so he asks the secretary to look after her. The boys are initially shocked by the secretary's presence in the house with a full suitcase. The secretary then shares the room with Sira, and they all begin living together. In the following days, the team works very hard for their upcoming tournament. During this time, Sira tries to avoid personal interactions with Yi and forget about that night. However, one day while she's heading home, he catches up to her and they briefly chat. He then takes this opportunity to confess his feelings to her. Sira is shocked by the revelation, and although she likes him as well, she doesn't think their relationship would be appropriate. Yi doesn't consider it a big deal since he's 20 years old, and she is only 4 years older than him. He suggests that they can start a relationship after he finishes school. However, Sira refuses his proposal and asks him to concentrate on the President's Cup instead. This leaves our poor hero heartbroken, and he has no choice but to respect her decision. The scene then cuts to the tournament day, where the team arrives in high spirits. Even Woo Jin's father shows up to support them, something which he had never done before. With everything falling in the right place, the team wins match after match. They eventually make it to the semi-final round, making everyone happy. The following day, Sira and her manager visit the hospital for her examination. The doctor reviews her reports and suggests she consult a highly skilled specialist who will be in Korea for a limited time. He advises Sira to undergo the surgery as soon as possible. However, she is reluctant because her team's finals are approaching. Upon hearing her reasoning, the manager becomes angry and scolds her, saying her health should be the priority. The doctor also persuades her, and she eventually agrees to the surgery. In the next scene, we see Sira in the hospital bed, reading a magazine. Her phone rings, and it's Yi, who asks her about her surgery. She reveals it's scheduled for tomorrow and apologizes for leaving during the semifinals. However, Yi reassures her not to worry because they will be okay. He then confesses that he misses her, and she responds by saying that she misses him too. Upon hearing this, our hero becomes excited, and he suddenly barges into her room. It turns out he was waiting for her this entire time. They then go for a brief walk, during which Sira says that he has to win at any cost. Yi promises that he will because he believes in his team. After this, they say their goodbyes, and Sira returns to the hospital feeling emotional. The following morning, as Sira is about to undergo surgery, she receives a call from the secretary. The woman reveals that Yi still hasn't shown up and the match is about to start. This makes our heroine extremely worried, as he should have been there by now. At the same time, she sees a news report about a car accident not far from her location. Sira fears the worst has happened and immediately drives towards towards the competition venue. Shortly after, she reaches the location, only to discover that Yi has arrived safe and sound. Overcome with relief, she realizes for the first time that she genuinely loves him. Yi is shocked to see her and asks what she's doing here, but Sira just looks at him and says she's happy to see him safe. Not long after, the match begins, and both teams go back and forth for a while, but it is Yi's team who ends up winning by the smallest of margins. This means they will play in the finals and are just one step away from claiming the grand prize. Meanwhile, Sira receives a call from her manager and tries to apologize, but he doesn't seem mad and reveals that he has already rescheduled the surgery. The next day, it's the final match, and everyone is pretty nervous. Their opponents are none other than the defending champions, Yuncheng School. Soon after, the match begins and our boys give it their all. It is a nerve-wracking game, and both teams showcase their brilliant moves. In the midst of it, one of Sira's players ends up fainting due to the pressure, but she quickly manages to get a substitute player to take his place. The game then resumes, and after many tense moments, Sira's team eventually scores the winning point and wins the championship. This sends them into a state of frenzy, and they celebrate by hugging each other in excitement. Later, at the press conference, a journalist asks Sira how she managed to turn the last-ranked team into a winner. She responds by saying that their success is solely due to their hard work, and she simply pointed them in the right direction. In the next scene, Sira is at the hospital, accompanied by Yi and her manager. She's about to undergo surgery and feels very nervous, so Yi takes her hand and assures her that everything will be fine. The manager also comforts her and promises that they'll be waiting for her. A few hours later, the surgery is complete and everything goes smoothly. When Sira wakes up, she finds her manager by her side. He appears to be very emotional, almost as if he's hiding something. Sira inquires what's wrong, to which he abruptly reveals that he's had feelings for her since they first met 6 years ago. He wanted to confess this many times, but always faltered. A shocked Sira tries to respond, but he stops her as he knows she doesn't have feelings for him. He simply wishes her good luck and walks away from there. After this, Yi heads to see Sira, and they go for a walk outside. She finally admits her feelings for him, but explains that she can't ask him to wait. This is because she's going to Germany for a year for further rehabilitation treatment. Sira informs him that he is 20 years old and should be able to date freely and enjoy his youth. However, Yi suddenly interrupts her by giving her a kiss. He asserts that he'll wait for her and asks her not to date other men in Germany. After saying this, he once again kisses her and does the same. The scene then shifts to a year later, where Yi is working at the amusement park again. Wu Jin happens to see him and asks why he's back here and if his sister is okay. Yi replies that everything is fine and that he's saving money to go to Germany. He then asks Wu Jin what he's doing here, to which the latter explains that he's here to meet someone. At this moment, Sira and the secretary show up, leaving Yi surprised. Both the lovebirds are overjoyed to see each other after such a long time. As they embrace lovingly, the nearby fountain activates and soaks everyone, resulting in a fun moment between them. The drama then concludes as we see the team members and Sira enjoying a roller coaster ride together while screaming in joy.